What does a homeless person do all day? Just like before he went homeless, his first thought is about the man he loves. He tells himself, although he is homeless, he is also a Southern prince. One no longer an exile of his family's January 6th shenanigans, because he did go to West Virginia. He saw it, he felt it, and thought about it. He even called his beautiful and crazy evil queen mother for a second opinion. But that ultimately resolved in the belief that America is the land of the free and the home of the brave. Even when there is no home to call his own, he knows Colorado is where his heart is. He wears something probably Prince William wears, a clean white t-shirt made in the city of his birth. In my case, it's Winston-Salem, North Carolina. It's Hanes t-shirt. Because he's a Southern prince, one with big muscles, underneath is a wife beater. The crown today is the same as yesterday's. Mack Trucks, born ready, which is my hat. He helps tidy the place up a bit and coordinates plans for the day with hotel room housemates, one of which he was friends with when they both had apartments. We'd be all you can be because he was in the Army. First round of calls are made via a voice over IP tablet app. It's wonky, it's unreliable, and it's a weekly subscription fee. It's not a flying car, but it's a phone, sorta. He calls the Department of Health and Human Services. The first prompt is about reporting child abuse and neglect. He dials through, and after 47 minutes on hold, he talks to another human for 2 minutes to schedule a phone interview next week for the SNAP benefits he's already applied for. He calls the food bank. He calls someone else to check on a backup plan for a stay at one night because recently he threw up actually at the homeless shelter. He vomited 6 times, and not everyone who stays there is as nice as he is. He calls Colorado Legal Services, which helped him obtain his birth certificate from North Carolina, then shipped it out to West Virginia, the wrong place. The first prompt is about divorce. 3 weeks after FedEx promised the birth certificate would be delivered, West Virginia finally finds it. He knows that his 2 applications for housing in West Virginia are delayed, but, he's in Colorado now, and he still isn't guaranteed a safe place at any time. He tries to leave a voicemail with a nice lady who can't imagine what he's going through because she's seen it happen for 25 years, but her voicemail is full. He has an email address in his primary email, but since his phone was stolen, he magically finds her email address a whole different other way. He remembers that finding email addresses was a part of lead generation for business people who want to make money but pay interns nothing for exploiting this skill. He wonders how many other people can do this, and he wonders if anyone realizes the lost appreciated income that was never gained and saved for retirement all those years ago. He takes a smoke break, just a cigarette. Like every day for over a month, since when the phone was stolen when he was kidnapped, he spends 3 hours trying to regain access to his email and online life. Google will give him the keys to the castle, but not until 26 more days have passed. He tells a friend he's already registered for a work app. It could start tomorrow, if only he had the passwords. He calls the bank. Although his coffer is empty, he still needs to give info to his tax preparer, Cash App, and the state of Colorado to have a better idea of when he'll receive the money he already earned. He needs a new phone, one with a camera that actually can focus, because everything important these days online needs its own individual live ID photo. He tries for 45 minutes to take a picture, but the tablet is so bad it never can take a clear enough picture. So he'll just have to try again later. He wonders if any of the boomers out there are dealing with this same issue. He assumes the 70s were sort of hard, and fax machines were probably challenging for homeless people to deal with back then too. Having no phone and no home makes it most essential to be able to bank effectively, and however small, it's still important. He knows the only alternative solution was to keep living in an old, dark, 6,000 square foot, basically castle, all alone, forever, probably, and to ride a bicycle, one his stepdad paid for his brother 15 years ago, to ride that bicycle 16 miles there and back to MCMB Bank or Pioneer Bank while his father's 3 free SUVs are not being able to be used by him, and that was never good enough. He tries not to forget to smile for all the people he's loved, and so much of them he misses. But the next time he sees someone else, he could probably love them forever. What I just read to you, that was actually something I posted back on April 30th, 2023. And all of these pictures that you have seen are actually pictures of me directly related in each month of 2023 doing something related to getting a job. In every single one of these moments, I'm doing something job related, either working, trying to get to work, trying to get to something that can help me get to work, obtaining documents, obtaining clothes for work. I'm doing a work related specifically. I'm either working or doing a work related activity. Now, I just want to go through and show you a little bit about the process of what it takes to apply for a job these days. This is something I've heard from multiple people over the age of 50 that I think they simply just do not know. So I wanted to just try to be objective and switch gears and just show you exactly what it takes to apply for a job at the grocery store. So I was in the grocery store yesterday and I was really happy to be there. My SNAP refilled. I only go to the grocery store when I have, an ability to pay for things. And I asked someone there named Lou. She was probably in her late 40s. And the cashier said she's who to talk to about a job. So I was like, I'm interested in working as a night clerk here at this grocery store. And she said, Lou, we have some positions. Go online and apply. I asked if there's any other information. She gave me the store number, and I was very happy because I know that having a store number can be very helpful sometimes. When you apply online, it can be confusing. They don't always list exactly where the store is. It varies by company. So here I am, and I actually applied for 2 jobs. I applied for one for just general retail sales store support. It was really vague. And then I also applied for pharmacy technician. I don't really want to be a pharmacy technician, but I do know that this online application is likely to go to maybe 2 different managers. The pharmacy technician, there's a chance maybe wants to fill the position or will see something on my application and call me faster than someone else might. The first part of this was very frustrating because I have to upload my resume. I've got 3 options. I can upload my resume. I can type it all in. I can use Indeed, or there is another option, the LinkedIn feature, to upload your career information and things like that. Well, the Indeed is what I wanted to use because I think it's already tailored for this kind of employment, except it actually didn't work today. It was an error, cannot use it, so I have to default to LinkedIn. That's when I get to my skills list that I have to insert here. This is the role is for pharmacy technician. It has nothing to do with the marketing or communications role. So my resume and LinkedIn has all of those, for the jobs in that kind of field, in that arena, there's keywords. I don't need to have social media, event presentation, email marketing, website development. But here's the process. This is what takes so long to apply for a job these days. So I know that the pharmacy technician manager, hiring person for that, is probably not interested in all of my communications and marketing and PR skills. They're probably interested in things like team-oriented, multitasker, adaptable to learn new things, just some general overall kind of employment terms that would just be good keywords. But I can't just select all of these other keywords that are already from my LinkedIn profile because, I already have an Indeed profile that is more tailored for this kind of job application. It's not my fault it didn't work today. So I have got to individually, one by one, go through. And as you're seeing here, I just kind of did a video from my phone onto the laptop that I was borrowing. And I'm going through and individually removing keywords that are irrelevant. You have to do this. Now, just because I'm applying at the same grocery store for 2 different jobs, it actually means I have to do this for each job. A few things I just want to interject right here. Does it seem like I'm overqualified for this position or it doesn't really fit me? Does it also seem like I'm homeless? This is not the position I wanted to pick. I wanted to be a night clerk. It would be best for me, but I'm homeless. Nobody cares about what's best for me or what I want to do. Also, remember, Lou yesterday at the grocery store, she said she thought there were some night clerk positions available. There wasn't, so I'm applying for a job that is available. And really, this is a laborious process, but the main problem is there's disconnect between what's at the store and what they tell you online. Even real easy things that are typically easy, like if you have stayed at 15 different places in 30 days, what zip code were you in when you applied for that job? You have to remember that. Are they asking for a physical address or mailing address? That's different. Where you go get your mail is not at home because you're homeless. There are things that are just like, if you don't have a home or you're not homeless, you never thought about how complicated all this would be. So I know you're probably familiar with some of these things. Like this one is asking me, what city did I go to high school in and the GPA? And I have to know, will it pre-populate? Will it know every single city in North Carolina? I went to high school in Clemens. Am I waiting for a drop down? But you have to remember, I'm already homeless. My life is at stake. I'm 16 times more likely to die. I'm trying to do this as quickly and as accurately as I can, but the stakes are higher for me. Now, I've been using computers my entire life. This should be a dead giveaway, but I know that for other people, it might not be. If you type in USA for country, you're never going to get there. You're going to have to type in United States or wait for United States of America, go through United Arab Emirates. They want to know what country did you graduate high school from, and they'll want to know that for college as well. The best I can gather here, you see that red error word there, and it feels like, oh, did I do something wrong? No, you just migrated your data from LinkedIn to this grocery store's hiring website, and it doesn't know how to process some information about your high school. There's nothing you did wrong there. It's just kind of like, well, you have to actually go through and fix it. So after we go through and just kind of fill out the obvious in whatever kind of a little bit different, always every time way to indicate I graduated from high school, United States of America. I did not get a PhD at West Forsyth High School. I got a high school diploma, and I did graduate. I am over the age of 18, so I just kind of wish those questions were one and the same, but they're not. The next question, of course, is have you ever worked for this giant family of companies? This is a very large conglomerate of like 27 different names. Have you ever worked for any of the companies we ever bought and sold or consolidated with? I mean, this is just how I have grown up because Ronald Reagan was already out of his mind when I was born. So I didn't have a choice. This is just kind of like what we are dealing with as people in our 30s. I'm homeless, but this is just another little question. It's like irrelevant to me actually getting the job. I mean, maybe in some cases, but it's just like, I could just select no and move on. Next question, of course, is going to be, are you over age 18, which most jobs you kind of need to be? Well, pharmacy technician, obviously. But then the next question is like, we might do a drug test or perform a background check, and just kind of a standard legal disclosure, I guess, here. But the thing about this is, let's say, and this did come up 3 years ago when I was on probation for a DUI, if you have a medical marijuana license, there should be information here. This is not something I'm worried about today, but I'm just saying in general, Colorado, whatever, just in general, the way the world is, there should be some sort of documentation or resource or link information that you should be able to have for exceptions to a normal quote unquote policy based on you have a disability and you're using medical marijuana for that. Like, what does this company require from a doctor? Like, how is the day-to-day logistical paperwork of all that facilitated? Those instructions are not available here. Then I'm kind of randomly going through some formalities, which you think would kind of be at the beginning, but the very beginning is importing the resume. It's not like, what is your name? What is your title? If you're a Mrs. or Doctor, Junior, Senior, all that kind of stuff, this is kind of thrown in there after you do some of the resume stuff, and it's like it feels like they're trying to be respectful of you, but like I said, they didn't even give me information I was looking for earlier, and you're only kind of answering what they want when they want it. I just don't like the format of this, but I want to tell you, I liked Lou. I like the connection I had with the person at the grocery store last night. I really do like this grocery store better than the one I already worked at. I'd really like to work here. But this is the process you have to go through. So do you remember a few moments ago when it was like high school, what city? Well, when it comes to where your address is, the format's different. It actually, this time, it doesn't, from high school, it didn't have to know exactly in the drop down. You had to click on it, specifically Clemens. You could just type in whatever city. I could type in Mayberry, which is not a real city in North Carolina, and it would have went through. Here, I had an error because I went through, and I have to actually type Denver, and then I have to actually click Denver. If you just type Denver, even if you don't hit a space bar, it will not go through. And then you have to do the same for the zip code. And remember, I've got to remember what zip code I was in, and I may have changed places a lot of times. Then, of course, comes the what flavor human are you questions, which is always kind of like preceded with language like, we don't really need to know, but we kind of need to know, and your participation is voluntary. And I'm like, well, why don't everybody just say prefer not to say, and we just be surprised when we show up at work? Once you have actually had to quit an employer for being white because other white people were calling people niggers in the workplace, you never forget that. I had that experience about a year before I became homeless, so it always triggers like that, just part of applying for a job now. Next, of course, is the always very important kind of like mandatory tax credit screening questions. And This one I don't like. This question is asking me if I was referred by any like government agency or anything like that. And I'm like, well, I'm homeless and I have 4 organizations supposed to be helping me find housing, and over a year they never have. It seems like I should be able to check yes on this box, but actually I haven't. The resources available for homeless are like computer training, learn how to type. And like, I already know how to type. There is nothing that fits where I'm at in life, in my career set. There's nothing for the homeless community that is actually at all relevant to me at all. This question on the tax screening asks if I have exhausted any government benefits in the past 2 years. Now, I've been homeless for like 500 plus days. You'd think that I might be close, but no, I haven't. I actually haven't. So we're just going to check no. It just seems like I know people in my family that have never worked before that probably have exhausted benefits. And I don't know. It's just like applying for a job throws you through these psychological, like you just kind of get robotic and you don't even think about it. But it's like, why are they asking? Of course, we always have the question, are you an Indian? Are you Native American? And I understand, I think, the reasons for this, but I just wish when you migrate your data over from LinkedIn, it's like you check one time and not 47 times while you're homeless applying for 47 different jobs, that you have to answer this question. Then we have questions about when did you start becoming unemployed? Well, I became unemployed. I had 2 jobs the week I became homeless, and so it's just like back to that. And then it's questions about, did you max out your unemployment? No, I never did. I haven't taken unemployment in over like 15 years. Then we always have the question, and I think that there is a pre-disclosure saying that this information is just used by the government and that they don't keep it or judge you on it. But I just kind of feel like, who doesn't know if they're on food stamps or not? And it's probably like the 17-year-old with a single mom who just isn't really completely sure, but he knows the right thing to do is to go to work. So he has to check on sure. But like, really, do we need to have this question too? I mean, all I really want to do is just talk to Lou yesterday at the grocery store, the one who said there was probably night clerk positions, but there aren't. None of this has anything to do with my connection to Lou, the relationship that I really need, because she was the one that I referred to talk to about a job. This has nothing to do with any of the information that Lou had. She had the store number, and I couldn't even use that. I forgot to tell you that. I could not even put in the store number. I had to go find it on a map. No, we're still in the tax credit section of applying for the job, but basically there's a question, are you a boomer? That's kind of how I perceive this question. Are you under the age of 40? I know Gen X is a little over 40 and stuff, but it's just like, this has nothing to do with my skills and aptitude, willingness to get to work, want to work, have knowledge of working in a grocery store before. This is just like, we need to know if you're a boomer or not. Then there's this kind of like, final authorization. We're done with the tax credit screening questions. And can you just verify all this information is correct? Well, there wasn't a way to change it. And that address on Federal Boulevard, I've never stayed there, never been there. It's never been affiliated with me. It asks for my social, but I can't put it in. There's no way to correct this information. It's just like, well, here you go. Is it right? Check yes, it's right. Say it's right. Promise us it's right. But if it's not right, there's no way to fix it. So it's just kind of like, well, this is so stupid. But like, this is part of having to, go back to work. Then we arrive with a completed section of the tax credit screening questions. You get this big green check mark, and I want you to pay particular attention to how it says, and it looks and appears that we are completed, but we're not completed. We're just completed with the tax credit questions. I want you to compare this to what you'll see in a moment when I actually finish the whole job application. This is more official and bigger and easier to recognize, and I do feel very sorry for the 57-year-old who is homeless or is just applying for a job and not as well versed in computers and online applications. It looks like you have done everything you need to do, but nope, you haven't. Here we arrive at kind of the final step. Usually, sometimes there could be an assessment. We'll talk about that in a moment. But this is basically where it's like, type your name and promise you told us the truth, nothing but the truth, and you'll always tell us the truth. And we find out for any reason you told us anything wrong, like you got a zip code wrong. If you've been working for us for 19 years, we find out, we can fire you over that, and everything goes away. Your whole career, like we reserve the right to do all that. And, then there's just, if you have any questions, but you check the box to receive emails about future job opportunities. If you don't get hired here now, we'll just bombard you with more information so you can do the whole process over again and do your skills over again. I never got around to explaining or show. I think I maybe mentioned it earlier. The city for where I live is Denver, and then the county is Denver. And what I want to say right here, this is another where there was a drop down and then there wasn't a drop down for the high school, but now this has to actually go in. I had to type Denver, and then I had to select Denver. Denver, where I'm at, is in Denver County, but the Denver metro area is 6 counties altogether. Homeless people particularly are often moving around different places all the time. It could be reasons for like hotel vouchers in different suburbs. You might start the job, but then because you put, Adams County instead of Douglas County or whatever, Denver County. Like if like this little step could like cost you the job, and then you're thrown right back. Like it could, if someone has, it's possible. If somebody doesn't like you at work, you're getting sexually harassed or whatever, you won't do what you want to do. Well, you're because you're homeless, or if that ever comes out, this is just like I don't like it. I don't like that they're very particular about what county did you live in when you applied for the job. Next, again, we're just kind of waiting on a robotic computer system that doesn't care about you, and it isn't Lou. This is not the position I applied for or was interested in. It's the position I applied for, yes, but it's not. Basically, we're waiting on this loading screen. We're waiting on the computer to wait on itself to tell us, we answered all the questions right. We're no errors. And now we're still waiting on the computer to give us a confirmation everything is cool. But we still don't really have any information that we would have got 25 years ago talking to somebody like Lou about what hours do you need? And, can I come at this time? Have you done this kind of experience? This has nothing to do with a job interview that you may have expected in the 1980s. Okay, so we have actually submitted the job application. I just typed my name and hit submit. It did not find any errors. It went through that whole saving process that I think is ridiculous because it should have been saving the whole way. And then it says you have in the corner there, thank you for your application. And that little window actually was on there for 2 seconds and then it went away. Let's take a look back at the one when it said we finished the tax screening questions. Here's that window. Now let's look back at what you see when you actually do everything right and you complete the job application. You have that tiny little thing there that actually disappears, and then you have a picture of a shadow clip art generic person supposed to be you, which there are plenty of places out there where you can go on and on the application part of the website. Just for hiring, trying to get a job there, you can go and create a little profile, put your picture on there, you can put your favorite color, you can create a profile like you're the company's friend. And, they've not even decided, they've just said your application's been submitted. We'll review it. They might send you an email with that information. And they're definitely going to tell you a decision has been made on your job application. At some point, if you go into the store trying to talk to Lou again, if I was to go do that right now, Lou would be like, honey, I got no idea. We're going to have to wait for somebody to come in later on. It's just still a block there. She can't just go. I can't go back to Lou tomorrow. And this is true at Taco Bell, at Walgreens, at 15 other places I've been to. But it was this way 10 years ago. Starbucks was extremely hard. And Starbucks is the company that I care about when that's the company that the hospital sent me to when they didn't believe in my suicide. Starbucks is particularly really bad about this. It's just kind of we don't care. We have to wait on something, the machine, to tell us, who's a good person to hire or whatever. But how could it really know? How does the robotic computer, it doesn't care about you, how does it score you and evaluate how great of an employee you're going to be when it's like this? And I will tell you, I worked at Target in 2006, and then I wanted to work at Target again in 2008. Well, the person that was the manager there, she was like, oh, you didn't do so well on your personality assessment. I was like, well, you know me, and I was a good employee, wasn't I? And she was like, yeah, you are. I was like, I was on time and everything, and she was like, yeah, you are, but you just didn't, I can't work at Target again because I didn't answer the stupid assessment questions, and I never do particularly that great. And I swear, if you were to look at my answers, we could go through this. Maybe one day we will. I've been doing it on the video. You'll be like, well, that's what I would choose too. And it's ridiculous. If you know me primarily through being my Facebook friend forever, I can totally understand how you might be inclined to say, well, nobody wants to deal with him. He's so opinionated and everything. Well, here's the thing. Here's my counteraction from that. When I have an interview with the manager at Walgreens or anywhere, face-to-face interview, the reaction is very positive. It is very well, we'll be glad to have you on board. Here's this last step, do this thing on the computer. And then, blah, blah. It's always kind of the computer stops me. It's the relationship I make with someone brand new. They're like, tell me about a time when, all those kind of typical interview questions, I nail those out of the park. Very positive, upbeat, respectful, whatever. I can be that person. I'm looking for work. I'm not looking for, a reality show on Bravo. I'm looking for, I like work that's not very people oriented, stalking. That kind of work is what I'm after. But it's so ridiculously computerized. I bet some of you have started to see these kind of things, and I'm kind of digressing a little bit from that job interview application, but this is kind of the stuff I'm talking about, that it is an inhibitor to where there was nothing we should have learned in school, really, that much better to be able to be successful today. And I'm homeless. So, like, if I don't have my phone because the kidnappers took it, I don't have the authenticator. I remember this being an issue when I was working at Dish World headquarters, a technology company. And one of the other traffic controllers, a girl with the same position as me, she was like, if I don't have my phone, what if I refuse to have a cell phone? Well, you just can't work there. You better have a phone so you can clock in to work. Here's one of these things that are just, that'll drive you nuts because you are not in the mood to do like a little puzzle. You're not like doing homework with like a sixth grader. You're just trying to like, get off auto pay. But you have to do this kind of bullshit all the time. Like, it's ridiculous because it's all set up for like the big Reagan billionaires of just, I had to do one of these last night. I actually had a friend and he is an accountant. So he's very different mentally, I'm a creative person, he's more math and science person, and he was like, oh yeah, I hate him too. He was like, he hated it, but he was the one, I tried 6 times, and it was more complicated than that one. These authenticator, I understand the whole logic behind it, but I'm just saying, I don't like how it takes, like, there's no customer service oriented, help assistance, which they are bleeding from us millennials who were told to be, approachable and genuine and kind and understanding to help serve the older population. But for us, there's nothing. And if you have ever had to deal with one of these bad boys before, let me tell you, there was a time, it was me and a couple other homeless guys just trying to get on a Wi-Fi network so we could do something we had to do, like pay bills and very important things. And like when it blocks you and you even walk into Xfinity, the customer service face-to-face person store, and you have questions and you want human answers, and they're just like, oh yeah, do it all online. I'm going to have to digress again and just talk about Xfinity and this Wi-Fi pass. And I know that like this is not going to win any Emmys, but it will help me remember all these points for later on. So I'm sorry, a little jealous or a little selfish. The Xfinity Wi-Fi pass is a blessing. It helps me enable me to have guaranteed like access to scooters if my Wi-Fi or data network is not working well. And you might think scooters are just kind of like some sort of like big city liberal luxury, but it's really our only means to get around. And this is how we get done our doctor's appointments, picking up our prescriptions, going to our job interviews, doing all the things that we're supposed to be doing. We have to use the scooters for them here in Denver. Another example, this lady did not know English and had no idea how to get to her bus stop or destination. If I did not have Xfinity Wi-Fi, this is where the problem really lies, is I do not have the bandwidth, the emotional ability, or the even technical, like literally data transfer expense allowable to give her Google Translate directions and help another person get to where she needs to go. She has no idea how any of this works. She just knows the address she needs to get to. Because I had the Wi-Fi pass, I was able to spend some time, was not in a hurry, and I was able to help her. If I did not have the Xfinity Wi-Fi pass, I would have to tell her, sorry, can't speak Spanish, and just move on and just be very cold. And just that, I hate that new millennium coldness. Here's a picture of my phone and what it looked like in August. This is how we're getting by. Like, if I don't have a cell phone charger or a cell phone, I don't have transportation. Let me break down what that means for you, okay? So that means I don't have access to the scooters. I don't have access to bus and train routes and understanding, when I shouldn't be where to catch what bus and trains. I also don't have the ability to communicate with anyone else except the world right in front of me, even if it's negative 10 degrees outside. And I might need a ride. Maybe someone's locked in or they're taking a shower or whatever, they can't get to the door. Something very, 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 very simple like that. If I don't have connectivity, it becomes almost life-threatening very quickly. And I have known several people who, once their phone stopped working, they actually passed away. If I could just talk to Lou, and remember, I'm wanting to work. I want to be a night clerk and work full time. That would be ideal for me. But I do have an opportunity to have this Wi-Fi pass, which is sometimes $10 if you're in Union Station on certain days, certain times. It's just like we are running around the city trying to find the right place to be at the right time to get the discounted Wi-Fi access so that we can have our scooters and just better reliance on what do we do if it's midnight and it's freezing cold, we have to go somewhere. How do we know that we have, ability to communicate? That's kind of where it goes. But this organization that I know was told me they will reimburse me for this. It normally is $30 for 30 days. I went to the Xfinity store and I say, basically, this is set to not renew. Can I get an invoice? Can I change it so you'll automatically bill me and I can get an invoice of that now? If I can do that, I could submit it and the organization will reimburse me or they will help take care of the bill. Well, face to face with Xfinity, they're just like, we really looked into this and it cannot be done. I have to pay for it again, and then I have to auto pay. It's just, we are being run too much by stuff that doesn't make sense. Okay, so I know I don't make a lot of sense, and we're going to get back to my conversation about employment and just applying for jobs and that whole sector. But this is a huge part of it. If you don't have connectivity, you don't have employment. I want to show you, this is the Denver Public Library locations and hours page. And I just want to say, I can see how people would say, well, if you don't have a phone, you can just go to the library and use a computer there for everything, right? Well, remember, I've got to navigate on public transit and know how to get there. And I have to look at all of these different hours and all these different locations. All of this information changes very frequently. How are you actually able to know you can get the information you need to get to for a job if you don't know which library is closest to you, where you're at that moment? Will it be open? I don't know what these gray dots mean right now for Wednesdays. Apparently, a lot of things are closed, but like 9 to 6, it seems like there's some parameters, but it's always been like the central library has been under construction, some part of it. They're always closing it and opening it. It's just like this library is completely closed right now, wherever that is. Like this information, you need a phone that works just to get to the library these days. It's just a very difficult process. I miss the human interaction. I can't even really say when I started working for Food Lion, a grocery store in 2003. I've worked for grocery stores before. I like working there, and it's a good environment. I wish I could just say, I'm homeless. I want to go work. I'm ready and willing, and I have a place where I can stay, probably enough times to where I can work there and not be homeless anymore. It's just not that simple. I've got to wait on all of these other parameters, and I get that, some automation and some metrics and some, just overall general, data conglomeration or aggregation. I can't think of the right scientific words, but like just overall, there's a need for some of this stuff. I get it. We don't need paperwork anymore. I get that too. But this whole process, this is a company that I like. I liked working. I liked shopping there. I like the overall feel when I'm in any Safeway store. I liked Lou. It's all green lights to work here, except these are not the jobs that I wanted. I had to go through and do that whole really very long remove the skills that I already have because they're not fit for the job. Just so many problems. And this is just, if you cannot follow up. When I was applying at Taco Bell, Walgreens, Subway, Jimmy John's, and a couple other places on East Colfax, I then had the hotel room 15 miles away, which is a 2-hour bus ride one way. You cannot call Taco Bell or Chipotle and ask to speak to a manager about the application that you submitted a few days ago. You just get a robot telling you, to order online, whether they can help you order. Just say, well, if you were, you have those things that block you from actually talking to the person who's going to be making a decision. That was very much a headache at Chipotle. All of the common sense skills and character building things that I think we should always do, like present yourself as professional, shave when you go speak to somebody about a job, and just have yes ma'am, yes sir, just the very basics. None of those rules apply when it's just apply online. And Lou was very much quick to tell me, oh, honey, it's apply online. Let me give you a store number. See, she didn't even know. It's been so long since she applied online or whatever. It's changed. So it's just like none of these things really have a leg up or are a determining factor in helping you get the job. And there's nothing that someone where it was before where someone could help you, maybe put a good word in for you, or you could meet the manager informally at lunch or something. None of those kind of things really exist anymore. It doesn't matter where you're at in this country. It could be Welch, West Virginia. They're always going to tell you to apply online. The way I'm going to close out this video is I just want to show you pictures of me at work over the years. This is me at Dish World Headquarters after I had earned a promotion, working 1 year and 1 day at the call center, a very, very intensely metric-based, data-driven kind of company where success is evaluated based on performance of what a computer says. And I think that's kind of really explains the character of some of the leadership there. I'll just leave it at that. This is pictures of me in my last job when I worked at King Soopers or the grocery store before I went homeless. I had 2 jobs a week when homeless. Do I seem happier working here for a smaller employer as a dishwasher, earning just $2 less an hour than scheduling commercials for 18 million people? Does that seem like a problem to you? I can say this about when I quit Dish. I was very happy and relieved to no longer be working there. And even though I was quitting my job during a pandemic, I just felt like I had reached a glass ceiling and that there was never going to be anything at Dish. No opportunity lied. I had already made it as high as I was going to go. And I was at world headquarters working one floor underneath the richest man in the state, Charlie Ergen, a billionaire. And I was never going to get anywhere else further with the company. And then I found out later I would end up working as a dishwasher, being happier, earning just $2 less an hour. A lot of people may refer to a solution as working in the family business. Well, what if you have pretty much been the family business since you were 4 years old? The family does things that you absolutely cannot tolerate, that you would fire someone over for going to January 6th. Let's put it, just use that example. Well, that happened, and I found working for other small families, employers, the restaurant was really cool, but I've worked for some where, there's nepotism and there's just, that would be one of the less things. There can also be other things that are awful. Here's a picture of me in Raleigh in 2010 when I was, really kind of hitting my stride. Here's me presenting in Washington, D.C., because I went #1 in the country and presented my success and then had 9 congressional appointments with congressional office staff from North Carolina and some representatives. It just feels like, I know what I want to do. It doesn't really matter where I work. I just need to get through the robotic metric system and get hired on and get to know my manager, start there, get a place, and then I just want to write my book about the whole experience of all of it. I'm not going for a YouTube Emmy. I'm going for just recording this information a lot for myself, but it's also really worthy for everybody to just be aware of. What I went #1 in the country for was Twitter. More than 47 state associations and the national affiliate could not match the number of followers and the engagement that I had on a social network, a very data-driven technology kind of thing. But at the core of it, Twitter is about relationships. I had the attention of national talk show host Ricky Lake, Michelle Borba, who was a syndicated child expert on CNN. I was making connections with the people who were the experts in childhood obesity and solving solutions, finding really common sense ways that we could all apply to our schools and our environments and things like that. And it was something that I was a thought leader in. It was a very data-driven, it was the perfect sync of old millennium and new millennium. And that kind of, I'm someone, if I make it to the floor underneath the richest man in the state in Colorado, I should be able to pull myself out of homelessness, right? You would think, but I can't. That is the core of the video. I will actually close by telling you I work for an HVAC manufacturer, the largest one in the world, actually, a subsidiary of Daikin Goodman, where basically the role was call and have that human face-to-face or over-the-phone connection, that personable approach, sell someone on your persuasiveness and your business acumen of just the benefits, your selling skills and your customer service was very important to persuade local contractors across the country to join this very data-driven, technical, Uber for HVAC emergencies kind of company. And what they did is they laid me off in the summer, and then they laid me off. They hired me back. They called me and persuaded me to come back to work, and then they just laid me off again. And I feel like I was successful, and this company has done this other times when I haven't worked there. It's just not right. So I'm going to talk about my family a little bit. So, and the older man there is my grandfather, Cliff, my mother's father, and he had a used car business. I don't think there were a lot of metrics, not the way that we have now, and not any of this computer nonsense. Basically, he told my grandmother, how many cars can you get clean? How good can you clean them? And, how good can you get at doing that? It's part of being successful here. And my mother was a nurse. She would get calls in the 90s and 2000s from different hospital and medical groups. Basically, she was always nursing was in demand, and it was always something where they were begging her and making it easier for her to demand things, or it was always she had more of the power, and she was always I remember so many conversations about so and such company hired me and they're only paying this much, and it was always more than I ever made. And then my dad always kind of had the freedom and flexibility and never the stress of if I need to make money, there's always a job I can go and negotiate with a face-to-face kind of counter a relationship. I know that is just a dying breed because, Modally, the company I work for, the HVAC contractors, outdoor advertising and painting and signs and, heating, ventilation, air conditioning, those two trades are not vastly that different. My brother is the little one here. He works for Amazon, and he, from what I understand, unloads trucks. his ability to have an income and have a house really only depends on his ability to keep unloading trucks. He's never probably going to meet Jeff Bezos, and I don't think that company, like so many of them out there, like Dish, like Dyke and Goodman, like every big company, like this grocery store, they don't really have, Lou, if I get hired there, does not have the kind of ability to keep me on staff if something happens down the road. It's just, there was issues at King Soopers I don't want to get into, but they were trying to make me stay later when we had agreed upon, this is my schedule. All of these things with labor in America are just so messed up, and I understand that people of a certain age, you do not understand, and I hope that maybe watching this video, you at least understood a little bit what it's like before you even start the job. I didn't even have to do an assessment on this one. I think because I've applied at Safeway a couple years ago and I passed it. The assessments and the personality questions and what would you do in this situation, and pick a number from 1 to 6 on how right and wrong this is. It would drive you nuts on what you have to do. It's nothing like I know how it used to be, or how I feel like it used to be. It is not that way at all anymore. Best, most clear distinction I can give you on how I know it's like, I think we maybe already can agree that it's changing too much, but this is a picture of me in February 2023, about this time last year in Hinton, West Virginia, when I went to escape homelessness, and my dad was house sitting a property in Summers County, and someone who was in his 80s, a U.S. Navy veteran, someone that my dad worked with before I was even born, and I'm 36 years old. I think he worked with this individual for like maybe 2 years tops at the most, maybe like a year and a half. Well, they became friends, and here it is, 2023, and this man and I, my dad were co-workers, and then they had a good relationship, and, they stayed in touch. I think he lived across the state line. He brought a chainsaw and frozen fish to my dad, and I think that, I think just under the surface, without saying too much or getting into a new different topic, I think that the older man basically kind of knew he was going to do the right thing, and help my dad. But I think that he also kind of understood there were some challenges I was under and reasons that I went homeless, because he had saw the character and the kind of person I was, and had that old world kind of, that values driven approach versus, did you score high on this, survey, or, are your metrics going right? Just let me ask the question. Do you think if my brother, 35 years from now, was to need food, do you think there's any coworker he has right now that would help him? I don't believe there would be, because my life is at stake, and I created a whole documentary on the relationships with my relationships, and I go through who helps and who doesn't, and it's really shocking and alarming. The people who, how you knew me, how you know me, what we have in common. If we work together, you can just pretty much count on you're not going to understand. Probably, I would say things like the zip code. You have got to remember which zip code was I in when I applied to that job. I can't go back on a bus 2 hours to, ask a quick question. So many things are just not foreseen, and it's just kind of like, it's just snowballed into, I must be a failure, so let's just, continue to not help them. And, it's just kind of like, I'm in a different place than I think people think that I'm in, because if, I'm burning bridges. Well, my dad's sleeping with a 7-year-old boy. That's kind of where we're at. I don't care about, if you can't understand or relate to me on, a professional level, like those marketing keywords for the communications positions, and, I might be applying for a deli position next. It's just kind of like, the world is so unfit, and the way the people in charge are so out of sync with the people, really the wind beneath your wings. It's unfortunate. I know I'm kind of rambling and just kind of like dropped a big bomb there. If you've just discovered my story or watching this video wanting to learn about a job and found out about my personal situation with my father, but this is how I'll correlate or say what I want to tack on. And then I want to talk about the nonprofit world just for a minute, because it's one time I'll be doing a video like this. With my father's situation, it has become the general response from the people I know who know us has been, well, if you've reported it, or, if you report it, then you've done all that you can do. It's up, like I'm supposed to let go. And I'm like, no, that's not right. Just because it's become, a case and it has a number now on a file somewhere digitally for somebody who will get hired later on to look at, does not actually do enough. the right thing to do is for somebody to go intervene right now. Always, always. Like, you cannot just this whole system of, if you have done enough on a computer system or called an 800 number and followed the prompts, this whole automatic thing that we're in, I think Miranda Lambert knows the whole world is short-staffed, and we need to be grateful for the people we have, and we need to put more trust and value in those human connections all of the time, everywhere. Nowhere can that be more true also than with our flagship universities like West Virginia University, where I was awarded for excellence and got a rare award for how well I was performing, and then I got laid off in the same month because their grant funds were over. It was just kind of, it doesn't matter how well I performed, there was just nowhere else for me to go. Even though as a remote employee on the other side of the state, I was really trying to get in that sweet spot of somewhere that wasn't so expensive. It's Denver, so people will say, well, it's too expensive. You got to go back somewhere less expensive. You go back somewhere like McDowell County, and then the opposite message is you need to go where the jobs are. Well, Morgantown is kind of in that sweet spot, and I knew that in 2014, 2015. Yeah, it was spring 2015 when I wanted to do that. Guess what? I became homeless Thanksgiving night 2016 when my father made me that way, when he no longer knew the difference between right and wrong. What I'll say about the employment options with nonprofit and university, the word metrics and the word phrase over in that world, evidence-based, very, very similar. And what has happened, what I have noticed in my experience, just as a professional, if you are in the nonprofit or higher education sector, if you're a young person out of college with a lot of college debt, maybe you've had some internships, you probably did have something like an internship. The people who are in charge of your career, about helping you get to the next step in any way, they are relying on grant funds that are going to end at a certain time. They are also tenured professors that are unable to understand the situation and the way the world is now and the parameters you have. I knew too many other people like me that were in similar situations. The decisions are being made by people who are in comfortable positions that will never be influenced by, it's just the evidence base. It's just kind of like as long as the computer's working, and we will have nothing to worry about. And it's just, I see this too much everywhere. So I'm just going to write a book. I'm going to keep making my YouTube videos, but I plan on writing a book. I'm going to actually close with, and I know I'm kind of rambling on, but this is so important. So this was a picture that I referenced earlier in the video, and I said everything I've done here has been something work-related. Well, this was the restaurant I worked at before I went homeless as a dishwasher, and here's me homeless, going back to that restaurant. And I am eating here, but I'm also talking to someone. The restaurant had changed ownership. The restaurant that I was employed under had closed. That owner had retired or something, and so it was sold to new people. This new bunch of people running a very similar business had stripped away a lot of the heart of the business. And I think that they came from a very big business, big brother, Ma Bell kind of environment. And just I could totally understand that I could see that they had trouble being hospitable. It wasn't a regional thing. It was just, they did not know how to connect. They wanted to hire me, but they weren't sure about if they could hire a dishwasher. And it was just so frustrating because what made America great, or what made business traditionally really good, they didn't have that soul. They had more of their card processing app system and, too many robots in the building, not enough great pizza. Here's me working at that same restaurant, and that sign behind me says, "You got a piece of my heart." And that just, to me, this is like a month before I went homeless. The firework pictures of me were at the restaurant, about terrorized I was going to go homeless. This is America today.